Hello and welcome to the Leveling Up podcast with me, George Swift from Bigger Brighter Bolder. I'm also the founder of BBB Success Groups for ambitious entrepreneurs and extreme growth masterminds. The Leveling Up podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development and the business growth that you, the ambitious small business owner, desires. We're here to give you the inspiration, the motivation and to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget to tune in every Monday and Wednesday for mindset, attitude, personal performance and business growth content, and every Friday when we do our Friday 5-minute fix. Subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. And wow, what an episode I have for you today. It's the first part in a two-part series, which is an interview with the legendary, the awesome guy that is Rob Goddard. He's the founder of Evolution Complete Business Sales. It's a mergers and acquisitions company. He's been a member of my success group since I founded it 7.5 years ago. He's been a member of my Extreme Growth Mastermind since I launched that 4.5 years ago. And I've watched him go from his back bedroom to now running a multi-7-figure turnover business. I've also more recently seen him successfully launch 3 other 6-figure businesses. He's a serial entrepreneur, he's a sales demon, he's a bloody awesome guy, and it's been an absolute privilege to be on his journey. It's been even more so to have him on ours. He knows a thing or two and some about business growth and about leveling up. If you are a small business owner and you are serious about leveling up and you're serious about creating extreme business growth, then you are not going to want to miss these episodes. This interview took place in Dubai when I caught up with Rob and we sat down and we talked about what is leveling up, what does it take to create extreme business growth, what does it take to create a multi-7-figure turnover business, and also what are the challenges that he faced in creating that. As you can imagine, you do not go from a back bedroom to multi-7 figures and multiple 6-figure businesses without a hiccup, a challenge, a barrier, a block, a slip here and there. And he talks very candidly about his personal journey. Rob is also a great inspirational speaker on the subject of suicide, specifically around men. He's written the book From Suicide to Success. I will put the link into the descriptions. Go and download that book. It's absolutely an inspirational tale of how you can go from the absolute pits of despair to creating an unbelievable life for yourself. Sit back, enjoy this first part of the 2-part series that is the interview with Rob Goddard. You are going to love this. Hello and welcome to Leveling Up. I'm with Rob Goddard of Evolution CBS.
Indeed.
And today we are talking again about leveling up as a business owner. So my definition, Rob, of leveling up is really where the extraordinary becomes the ordinary. So in other words, you're running at 50k and you want to get to 100k. There might be processes, systems you need to do. There might be products and sales and training and all this sort of stuff. But actually, you as the individual also need to level up and start operating at a higher level. And for me, you've leveled up fully once you fully embody that next level up. So for example, I say about 50 to 100k. So if you're doing 50k and then you do 100k, but when 100k still surprises you as, wow, look at me, you haven't yet leveled up. So you're doing 100k, but you haven't leveled up. When 100k becomes ordinary and normal, and you couldn't imagine any less than that, now that's why we call leveling up.
Right.
Okay. So for the people that are listening to this and watching this, these podcasts are all about really helping them, no matter where they are in their own personal journey, to really identify with what they might need to do or what they might need to appreciate in order for themselves to start to level up. And with you, I'm really proud to have you on here because with Rob, we've known Rob for many, many years. And on our watch, since we've known Rob, he's gone from 150k turnover to 4.2
million.
4.2 million, 2 continents.
2 continents, 3,500 miles away.
3,500 miles. And we're in one of them now, by the way. I didn't say that.
Yes.
We are in...
set the scene.
We are in Dubai right now, which is why we are in my hotel suite. So we are in Dubai right now, which is where Rob... How long ago did you come over here?
I came out here 2 years ago, although I did live and work in Dubai originally in 2010, but it didn't work for me then. So I failed.
So you knew the lay of the land. We'll come to failure in a little bit. I like to talk about failures.
I thought you would.
So you knew the lay of the land.
Yes.
But you were here under the previous business that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Came back a couple of years. And just give us a quick update of what you do and kind of where you're at now. And maybe a little bit why we're actually sitting in Dubai right now, for example.
Okay. Right. So we do three things. Evolution CBS helps business owners, owner-managers grow their business, buy businesses, if that's part of their growth strategy, and we sell businesses, our clients' businesses, so they can exit. So it's a grow, buy, sell strategy. We've been doing it in the UK for 8 years, started it from scratch, didn't have any money because I came back from Dubai broke. I think I had 2,000 quid on my credit cards. I got someone to do a website for me.
Yep.
Business cards, and then I networked like hell.
Right, and this is actually something really interesting. So I'm going to jump straight in there because I know one of the things we talked about since we've been here, and it really interested me, which was, you know, I'm always banging on, right? When you're a small business, in fact, any business, the number one thing you have to do is you have to sell, right?
Yes.
You have to sell, you have to find people to sell to,
Yep.
and then you have to go out and sell. And I see a lot of small businesses really hiding from selling, and they hide behind other tasks like marketing or other things, which may or may not turn into business, but it kind of gives them the illusion that
they're busy.
Right, it gives the illusion they're busy, it gives the illusion that they're business developing,
Yeah.
but it can take ages, it can be ineffective, everything else. So one of the things I was really interested with you actually, when you started off out here, was the story you told us about how you started without any leads,
Yep.
and you couldn't get any leads. And I think for anyone listening, because I think people sit there and say, well, where is everybody? Where do I find them? So tell us a little bit, just quickly, about how you started off getting people to even sell to in the first place.
So I was out of a job, my marriage had broken down, and I came to Dubai, pursuing my fame and fortune. I went under the umbrella of another company.
Yep.
In the induction training in the UK, they said I'd get qualified leads, CRM, and I'd be selling to some of the world's richest people who had so much disposable income because they don't pay tax in the UAE that I wouldn't know what to do with it.
So you came?
I came. It wasn't all that I was told wasn't true. There was no database. There were no pre-qualified leads. All they gave me was a phone from a rented office and some business cards. And when I queried these promises, they said, no, you've got to create your own data. You are self-employed. No one's going to feed you with anything.
Yeah.
So I thought, because I'm a sales guy, and I hadn't really appreciated, you can be a great sales guy, but unless you're getting leads coming through, you're dead in the water. So I thought, I'm in a foreign country, 3,500 miles away, with no backup, no support. I've got to do it myself. Oh, and I was commission only.
Right. So do you know what?
No salary.
So I'm picturing this right now. So the people that are trying to work this out. So you were connected to an organisation as opposed to running your own business.
Yes.
But that definition is you were
self-employed.
You're an entrepreneur, right? I mean, literally, as in, I got it totally.
Oh, and I was the first one over.
Right. Okay.
So there wasn't even a team.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
So I was on my Todd in a foreign country, and I thought, well, if I'm selling to high net worth individuals, it was an IFA role.
Yeah.
So I was selling financial services. Where does my target market hang out? And I thought, well, they've got to buy stuff here, and they'll buy cars, luxury cars. And here in Dubai, you've experienced, you've been up and down that road yesterday, a road called Sheikh Zayed Road. There are a huge amount of dealerships, exotic cars, Porsche, Bentley, Aston Martin. So I thought, well, if my target market are buying cars, why don't I go and see if I can collaborate?
Yeah.
So I went to a Saab dealership because I thought, well, I'm not going to go to Rolls Royce.
And I haven't seen a Ford one here. so we'll start with
So I said to the lady, the sales lady from Saab, we're selling to a similar marketplace. I'd like to collaborate with you. Maybe I could, on financial services, maybe I could, you could introduce me to some of your clients. I could write the life insurance or the protection going against the loan that someone might have to buy a car. And she thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So she gave me 600 email addresses of 600 Saab customers in Dubai.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So now I've got 600 people that I can contact direct as well. But then I walked up the road to the next dealership, which was Porsche. I said, I've got, same story, but now I've got 600 email addresses.
I've got 600 Saab
So the guy
owners.
from Porsche, the sales guy, we swapped.
Yeah.
So he gave me 600 Porsche customer contact details. There's no Data Protection Act here.
I was going to say, this unfortunately is no longer a strategy we can apply.
No, but it was in 2010.
But it's the resourcefulness is what blew me away with
So
this.
I spent months walking up and down in the summer in Dubai, the different dealerships, Harley Davidson, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Aston Martin, switching data.
Collecting data,
Now I had thousands.
Yeah.
I also, so I was able to sell off the back of that. I also used LinkedIn. And I was doing articles like, would you like to beat the banks as my strapline?
Right, yeah.
And I've got people coming back and say, yes, I would like to beat the banks. And I was selling financial services off the back of, through LinkedIn in 2010, long before it's become popular.
Yeah.
And also I hang out at places like the Marina, because that's where my target market is, and Fibbers McGee, which is an Irish pub, because that's where the expats go, and just engaging in conversation and networking.
And I think it's the thing, right? Because for me, one of the things I bang on a lot to all businesses, but again, especially to those starting out, and especially those who are still quite small, which is you've got to go networking, right? So initially you go networking, and the good news is back in the UK and that. There's loads of organised networking, so somebody's done the hard work for you, right, and laid up loads of prospects potentially you talk to. But what I loved about this was resourcefulness of being out here empty-handed, and you see a lot of entrepreneurs and everything else. And I think that's the definition for me of what an entrepreneur is, right? It's somebody who gets really creative with their problem solving for themselves, and rather than sitting there passively saying, I don't have leads, I haven't got clients, I haven't got this, or the market's crap, or all this stuff that you hear.
Brexit.
Right, all that, right? So we've got it all coming up, and we're going to hear those things. And I think to be empowered, to ask the simple questions you asked, you said, which is, where are they? You then started off with one, and then you got really creative and everything else. And regardless of what the laws are today regarding data and everything else,
still relaxed.
It was over here. Over
Not in the UK.
Over here, still relaxed. There's a lot of things relaxed.
But the principle's right.
But the principle's right, and also what I like about it is the resourcefulness to do it and the attitude to do it, rather than just get back on a plane and say they didn't give me any leads, they didn't give me any of this, they didn't give me whatever. And regardless of whether you're connected to a big organisation or one on your own, you're in exactly the same boat as every entrepreneur out there, which is you will starve or feed, you will live or die based on your actions and your ability to find people to sell your products to who want to buy your products.
And I have to say, I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
It was a real emotional low point because I had no leads, no one knew I existed, and I didn't have a website. Right. And I was commission only, so I wasn't getting paid at the end of the month. And it was a hard time. Yeah. But I had to dig really deep. And whilst I didn't enjoy it in the early months of doing it, it stuck with me when I come back to the UK, because actually I learned something out in Dubai, that I can actually create something from nothing, unlike a lot of physics. I can create something from nothing if I'm prepared to put myself out there and do something. I don't think most people enjoy doing that.
Well, I mean, again, this is one of my little things. I think we can definitely learn to enjoy sales, and I think we should learn to enjoy it, because otherwise it's just going to be a hard slog. Because the one job you're going to do for a long time is sales, right? You'll let go of your own admin, you'll let go of other things. We'll talk about your growth in a little bit, but you'll let go of a lot of tasks. But one of the tasks you're going to be left with almost to the end is sales, right? And then that's going to be, for me, I always say that's the last one. Getting good salespeople is really, really hard. Getting people who are reliable and passionate is really hard. Even getting a good salesman with a good track record comes to your business but isn't successful. Just it's one of those things. And so it's one of the things I think every business owner has to start with on their own, because it's you. And I think it's something you're going to see all the way through. And interestingly, with yourself included, but also with all the other businesses that were start up to over $1 million that I know, right, and work with. Every single one of them, the owner of the business is a sales head first, right? In other words, they have a sales first mentality. So I know with you that there was periods of time where you were pretty much on the road, right? And it was pure sales and sales and sales. But right from the beginning, it was sales orientated. When you turned up in Dubai with the previous organisation, it was purely sales focused. I know still today, sales is absolutely at the core of your business now.
It is.
And for you, you're in the position that I think a lot of people want to get to that don't necessarily like sales, is you're in a position now to start getting other people to sell for for you.
Yes.
And that's a great place to get, but that's only recent that I know for a fact that's been the case. You've been the number one breadwinner in that business for years and years and years. And I think with sales, you know, with business owners, they have to step up to sales. They have to start to try and enjoy it. And I think it's easy to enjoy it when it starts to work, you know, but they have to go through that uncomfortable period. And I think that's the bit that's really important, is it's easy to look at other people who are good at sales or do sales or look at where they are today, you know, and you just had your biggest month on record, right? And sell massive deals like you've just done, okay? Do you want to say what that was, or you opened?
We topped $1 million turnover in a month.
Right, so £1 million in one turnover, right? Big sales stuff. So it's easy to look on the outside when people see that to say it's okay for you, right? Because you're good at sales, you're good with people, you're good. And I think it's weird. And one of the reasons I'm doing these podcasts is I want people not just to keep hearing it from me, where I put out content saying to people, stick with it, and we all do this. And you know, obviously, I'm passing on your stories without your name, but anecdotally in that. And these podcasts are done deliberately to kind of get some really cool messages across that I have about entrepreneurship, but with people also that they can hear it from the horse's mouth. And for someone to get to 4.2 million and operate across 2 continents, and I know there's other things we don't want to talk about just yet, but there's other things that you've got on the cards. It's really exciting, and most businesses never get anywhere near to that kind of scale in their business, or enjoyment, whatever you want to call it, rewards return. And it's nice to know that you also had to go through that period where it was miserable. And I don't think anyone would. I'm trying to think of anyone that would love to come in, even they love sales, to have no leads, none of this, no base, I mean, I don't think anyone would want that. No. But you work with what you've got. Yeah. And you stick with it. And of course, back in that one, whilst that didn't work out long term, that must have given you a huge launch pad for what you're doing now.
It equipped me for when I come back to the UK. Yeah. Because I'm still brassic. I didn't have a marketing budget. I knew what I wanted to do when I come back to the UK, having been in Dubai. Yeah. I wanted to go back to my first love, which was the buying and selling of businesses, mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. And I thought I learnt things in Dubai that have become really important to me in the UK. Yeah. As a one-man band, because I was working back in Basingstoke, working from a bedroom and a broadband connection. Yeah. I was on my Todd, self-employed. Yeah. The myth that being self-employed gives you loads of time and disposable income, it's just ridiculous. 24/7. The fact that no one's going to feed you with stuff, you've got to do it yourself. So I learned that. It was boot camp for me, Dubai. Yeah. Come back to the UK, better equipped. Yeah. No money. Yeah. So I thought, well, I'll just repeat what I did in Dubai, but I'll do it in Hampshire. Yeah. Which is, I'll network like crazy. I'll work all hours that God sends, and it will come right eventually. Because I know one quality I have got is I'm bloody minded. Yeah. I like to see it as forthright and driven. Yeah. Stubborn. Other people say you're just stubborn. Yeah. But I'm not a quitter. Yeah. And I could have given up, but I didn't. But I guess for 5 years, I was the sole breadwinner within Evolution in the UK. Yeah. And that's only changed in the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Last 3 years, where I'm not the sole provider of new business. Yeah. And it's released me. But I've seen progress. I started as a 5-figure business in the UK, so under 100 grand, with 2 grand put on my credit cards for a website and business cards. I went to 6-figure. The company's now comfortable 7-figure. Yep. And we're en route for an 8-figure business, but it won't be me that takes it there. Yeah. Because I've built up a management team. Yeah. And the last 2 years, you know this, the last 2 years I've been having a ball. Yeah. Working hard. Yep. But I love the work that I do, and I love the fact that I've built a team around me that can more and more, as the years go on, run the business day to day. But I haven't just got a 7-figure business, I've got a 6-figure here. Yep. And I've started a 5-figure business in the UK as well. So I've got 3 business ventures, simultaneous, 5, 6 and 7 figures. Yeah. And I still have time for family.
And I think on that note, which I think is really important, is you mentioned a couple of things. I'll just pick up a couple of things you mentioned. So one was boot camp, and it's interesting because I was speaking to a bunch of teenagers not long ago. I was doing a keynote to young entrepreneurs.
Right.
So about 150 young entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, and one kid asked me, he said, like, where should I start or something, or what's the best advice for me to get started in entrepreneurship? And interesting, he said that because I said two things, right? And I said, one, take a sport and just push it as hard as you can, right? So learn what your limits are, physical abilities, really dig in. Now, your boot camp was over here on the streets of Dubai in 50 degrees, right? But, for a young kid...
Centigrade.
Centigrade, yeah. So I was saying to a young kid, I said, like, go out, do whatever sport, I don't care what sport it is, but push it to the absolute limit. So you have to really, you learn discipline, commitment, you learn what discomfort feels like, anything else. I said, the next thing, get the shittiest sales job imaginable. I said, sell the hardest, toothbrushes door to door, anything, right? Or, I don't think I do it anymore, right? But one of my backgrounds I sold advertising space in Thomson Directory for a little while, and all this sort of and selling photocopiers and stuff, and fax machines and telesales, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what it does, that's your boot camp, right? Because it's miserable, because it's full of rejection, hard work. But what it does do is it conditions you to level up, right? And that's where it brings in this, because then you level up, right? And now you're in a position, you literally just said this today, where you get to choose who you work with, who you take on as a client, and you get to choose these things, and you've got clients that come to you now, and stuff like that, and that's something which is like, obviously we're all working towards that. But again, I want to just keep banging on this thing. It wasn't like that not that long ago.
No.
But just because you can see the fruits of your labour now, it's the amount of hard work you have to put in up front in order to get the deferred success. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I say a little thing with myself a little bit, if I'm honest. If I knew how hard it was going to be, how hard I was going to have to work, and the shit I had to take and put up with, I probably would never have started it. Yeah. But the moment it starts to become worthwhile, you forget so quickly the hardship. Like you know it's there, but it leaves you so quickly. You forget, when you couldn't. Okay, let's ask this question, right? And I'll share mine in a minute, right? Have you got in your past, not I don't mean like, like a low point financially, even with your current business, right? So with your current business, so it might have been at the beginning, it might have been at some point in the middle, but do you have a low point financially that you would share with us? Yeah.
So when I came back from Dubai, I'm set up as a one-man band, Evolution. I had about £2, just over £2 in my pocket, and I was in the Kennett Centre in Newbury, and I had to share a cup of coffee with my best mate Alex. And at that point I realised I had debts as well, like big debts, tens of thousands, not a few quid, and no, well, apart from a couple of quid. And I thought, it's interesting. I haven't got much to lose now. I only got £2.30.
It's good you got to lose.
I can afford to take some risks because I can only lose a couple of quid. So I was empowered by that. But I think it's quite grounding, where you know what it is to have like next to nothing. But it makes you more creative. Because I knew I wanted to work for myself, and I knew I didn't want to go back into corporate life. So I had no choice, really. Well, you've got to keep going forwards.
You gave yourself no choice. Now, and I say this. I have another one of my little sayings I throw out there, which is when you would rather live in a bag on the street than go back to employment, you're cured, right? You're cured, and now you're an entrepreneur, right? So if someone took everything off me today, there's nothing that would make me go and get a job. Like nothing. There's nothing. I would be much better off starting with like a couple of pebbles in my pocket than going off and trying to. I don't think anyone would employ us anyway now, Rob, right?
No, I'm unemployable. I possibly think you might be.
I never was particularly.
The thing is, as the money has grown, and my costs have grown in the business hugely, it's more scary now than it was when I had a couple of quid.
Well, I was going to touch on that because you mentioned this, because here's the thing, when you've got nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose, right? And you know me, I keep talking about the brain and how the brain, can sometimes work for us, and other times it can really hold us back, and these little forces that kind of manipulate us. And one of the things that happens, of course, is, and it's a real risk, is that when you start to succeed, and especially, by the way, even more so when you know what being poor feels like, or you know what hardship feels like.
Yeah.
The brain, when it gets even a degree of comfort, will try and protect that degree of comfort. And the way it protects it is by making you fearful of risking it, right? So the risk you've got here is, if you've never lost anything, you would never fear loss, right?
Yeah.
But because you're never gonna get successful without losing, probably many times, right?
Yep.
And myself included have got this in my history. So therefore, the moment you get a little bit of comfort, and I find this even in mine, right? And we're nowhere near where you are, but I find in my business now, because we've had probably a good couple of years, and it's, again, I'm like you, it's only been about 2 years that I'd say that we've been comfortable in our business, right? For the first, what, 8 years or 7.5 years of our business, we had degrees of success along the way, but definitely we had, I mean, you know, 5 years ago, so that was still, what, 3 years into our business, whatever, we were doing half decent turnover as a small business, and we had to borrow our tax payments or something, right? So someone took out couldn't get a loan.
Wow.
We'd maxed out our credit cards.
Wow.
And we've literally just done the final payment, right? 5 years later, and we took this payment out. I know we took this payment out to pay our tax bill because we couldn't pay our tax bill, right? So I was talking about sharing my low point as well financially. And that was only 5 years ago, and it still wasn't great after that. You know, we had to clear tons of credit card debt that we used to build the business up with and support our lifestyle on that. Not frivolous stuff, but like just living day-to-day living, the mortgage, etc. And it's only been about 2 years that I'd say we've been comfortable, and it's probably only about a year that I would say we've leveled up ourselves in terms of the quality of our life. In other words, we went through a scale of where we were, you know, but now to be able to do some of the stuff that we would want to do, it's only recently I would say we've leveled up where it becomes normal. You know, it becomes normal to go a little bit above where you were, or you know, where it might be. I mean, I remember trying to buy an iPad when iPads came out. I didn't even know why I wanted one. I don't think anyone did, right? But I wanted an iPad, and I couldn't afford an iPad. It was £22 a month, and I remember trying to negotiate with Tracy that I wouldn't have coffees because I was probably having about a coffee a week at Costa's, which was about 20 quid a month. And I remember saying to Tracy, I'll stop Costa's so I can get my iPad. 20 quid, right? Yeah. And that, even though I can remember it, you know, it's so forgotten, like that kind of place. But people need to know that to get through to the other side, you're going to have to stare that kind of thing down, right?
I used to go to Starbucks because I didn't have enough money in the early days of renting an office. So I went to Starbucks because I wanted to get out of the bedroom at home. So for me, progress was going to Starbucks because it was free Wi-Fi. And all I needed to do, and it was free refills, once you bought one coffee, it was free refills at the time. So I thought I could stay there all day, it cost me 1 cup of coffee, and I'd get broadband. So for me that was progress, because I was going to the office.
For sure, I take that, I'm with you. I'm with you. Coffee shops were
nice comfy armchairs.
True. True.
One thing that Tracy said to me years ago when we first met, was, what's the worst that can happen? Because I remember carrying a fear of failure. And she helped me to understand what my fear was. And she said, well, what's the worst that can happen if you have a business failure? And what would you do? And actually, I came up with the white transit. If it all collapsed, my last few quid, I would buy a transit van, and I'd go to house clearances, collect people's stuff, and I'd sell it at a car boot. So I could earn a living with my transit. And once I'd faced my fear about the worst that could happen, I felt empowered. And that goes back to the whole gambling thing, right? Because when the brain's not willing to gamble it gives that resistance, right? That resistance, which means actually we start to choke. We start to hold ourselves back. But of course, we have to. The whole nature of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is we have to grow and we have to continue to level up. You know, both the business, but obviously in order to do that, we've had to level up, and you've had to level up along the way as well. And because of that, obviously the rewards level up as well. Does that make sense? And the lifestyle levels up. And, Indeed.
And I remember my kids coming to me and saying to me on one Friday when I picked them up, and they said to me, "Have you got much work on this weekend, Daddy?" And they were about 7 years old, and they never moaned once about my working. Like they've never moaned once. They understand what we do. All my kids are completely in my business, so you know they've seen me do the firewalk and the events. They've seen me do corporate stuff. They've come to success groups. They've seen it all, and I invite them into my life.
And mastermind.
And mastermind, and mastermind. And they know why I do what I do, and they know how it affects them and the whole life and everything else. But I've always made a pact with myself and with them, even though not directly with them, but in my head with them, about making sure that I spend the time with them to be the dad that I want to be. And just them asking that question was enough to let me know that I'd got it out of whack. Do you know what I mean? And in that moment, because this is that risking thing, I thought I had to take every piece of business.
Yeah.
We originally started coaching individuals rather than business owners, and most people who work for other people don't want to do coaching calls at work.
Yes.
So they're either doing early hours in the morning, in the evening, or weekends. Yeah. Now I don't do early mornings, as you know, so it was either evening, so I was up till midnight sometimes coaching, and I was doing Saturdays and Sundays. And it was just that question that did it. But you know what? I took all that business because I was scared not to take the business on.
Yes.
And yet the moment the pain of feeling like I might be becoming a bad dad, by my definition, not theirs, just all she did was ask me the question. But I knew the fact that at 7 years old, asking me that question meant that I'd got it out of whack for myself. And in that moment, I said, Tracy and all my clients, I'm not doing weekends anymore. And I literally stopped all weekend work when I've got the kids. I still work weekends when they're not there, but I stopped all weekend work with when the kids were there. Half term, I take everything off I can, apart from things like success groups or masterminds in the diary. I don't do the one-to-ones and I don't do other work and that. I clear it for them. And I made that decision in one moment because the risk of being a bad dad, if you want to call it that, I wasn't, but the perception outweighed the risk of whatever I was losing. And you know what? I swear to God, no impact on my business at all. It was just the balls to put, well, not the balls, it was the fear of being a bad dad, but really it's about having the balls to go out there and say, right, this is how I'm doing it, I'm not doing that anymore. And then realising you get a little bit of pushback.
You're right, because the last 2 or 3 years I've been growing the team, I've had less involvement in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And the business has been doing that. In fact, the business has thrived with me pulling back from the day-to-day.
Well, I remember you going on that first long holiday and you were a bit nervous.
Which holiday?
The first time you went away for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had this idea that if I'm not in the business, and this is really interesting for people, right? Because when I started with 4 years, me and Tracy never had a holiday.
Right.
Because we're like on it. And I do remember you going away. You had a whole team in place and everything.
I know.
You were nervous.
Yeah.
But you came back and they'd done loads of business then without you.
Best month of the year was with me out the country. Now I take August off.
Yep.
And we probably have 5-6 holidays a year, and then a month off during the summer. And that hasn't affected adversely the business performance.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? You had to earn the right to do that.
Yeah.
If you'd started your career with months off, and this is what you say to people. I think people look at entrepreneurship and stuff, and especially if they look at they look up to people and that, and I think it can give a false economy about what's in store. And I'm not here to try and paint a miserable picture of entrepreneurship, because I actually believe, without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best job on the planet, right? Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best job on the planet. You get to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for who you want, for the wealth you want. It's all up for grabs, right? And there's no other job on the earth like it.
True.
But I do also, instill in people the need to have to really fight for it. Because I don't know anyone that's ever had it easy. I don't know anyone that hasn't got the list of stories that I know you've got and the stories I've got, just in this business, let alone my previous life leading up to this. And I think it's really important people understand when they're going through these downward periods, it really is just absolutely part and parcel of having, for me, the greatest job and the greatest opportunity on the planet.
It is, and in fact what we do, because I still consider myself self-employed. That's my mindset. I still, even though I've got a team of 20 odd people now, I still have those values of wanting to grow. So I'm still working hard, but I'm not doing the day-to-day. I'm looking for new business. I didn't have to set up in the Middle East.
Yeah.
If I didn't set up the business here in Dubai, I'd be part-time now in the UK.
Yeah.
I'd be working 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And it's only that I filled the space with Dubai, and also there's another business venture that's running alongside as well.
Yeah.
Because I love working.
Do you find that you start off working and there's a dream, there's an ambition, there's a drive, maybe there's a fear of not going, of not working for someone else or whatever, but it gets you started on your career. It's fun because it's all play, it's all business cards and websites.
Yes.
Then it's hard because it's sales, graft, networking, long hours, whatever it might be, and also the pressure of doing it all on your own, which is one of the reasons we exist as a business, is because it's really hard to do it on your own. And you've been with us since we started this whole business, and before that, and that's one of the reasons we exist, is to help share some of that load, burden, loneliness, whatever it might be. But there is a point in there where people say, well, why would you keep growing? And tell me, it might be not the same for you, but I'd be interested to hear what you say, is that even when you've got to the point where you've got kind of what you wanted, or even more than you wanted when you started, people say, well, why do you still want more, right? Like it's a greed or something.
Right.
Now, my take, I'll be interested if you agree with me or if it's something different. My take is really simple, is because once you get to that point, now we're into the game, right? We're into the fun. Like come to Dubai, why not? It's here to be had. Or set up another venture, well, why not? It's here. Or go for the next million. I don't need the money, or you don't need the money, you don't need this. What's your take on what keeps driving you, even though now I believe, you must have surpassed to some degree what your original goals were at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, partly, but I had a longer term vision. So I wanted to, my magic number was to create at least £5 million. And I think it was 9 years period.
Yeah.
So I set myself a magic number for the long-term future.
Yeah.
And that's not difficult. I mean, it takes some thinking. Also, how am I going to do it? So I have hit milestones and targets and goals and on the way. The reason I still do it is I love the nature of what I do. I love being able to help businesses grow, buy and sell.
What's the part of that you, because it is one of the questions I had anyway, so I'll ask it now you said it. What is it you specifically love about what you do? So you love doing it for the client.
Oh, because I'm on that journey with them.
Right.
So my personal journey is to sell up, take my millions off the table and go and do something else, finish one chapter and start a new one.
Take your own pills. Medicine. Eat your own food.
No,
what are they saying?
So I practice what I preach.
Yeah, that's one.
And
that'll do.
I'm on that journey, so I can empathise with my clients because I'm on that journey.
Yeah.
They're just a bit ahead of me because they're looking to exit perhaps.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an empathy, and also because of the hard years, I can empathise with business owners that are struggling at the moment and they're looking for answers and solutions. So I love the nature of what we do, but also I want significance and purpose in life and a reason to get up on a Monday morning or in Dubai Sunday morning, as you've discovered. Because I'm not a pipe and slippers man. Retirement to me is choosing the work that you do and when you do it. That's retirement. I love work. I just don't want to work full time anymore because I'm old.
Don't want to have to work.
I'm nearer to 60 than I am 50. I don't want to work. I've worked for 40 years.
And I think, and I really mean this, right? So how long's Evolution been going now?
8 years.
8 years, right? So, and you've got, what, 2 years left on the clock, is that right?
18 months,
18 months left.
Ticking.
Right.
2020.
8 months, right, 2020, right?
Middle of 2020.
And I do believe, I call it entrepreneurial freedom, right? But that's what freedom is, right? Freedom is not sitting around doing nothing all day long or retirement necessarily, unless that's what you want. Freedom, as you say, is to be able to do what you want when you want to do it and everything else.
Yeah.
And what I think is really important, both in business and in the other side of business, is purpose.
Yep.
And you and I have talked about this with a lot of your clients, that actually, because they're obviously have thrown so much into their business lives and their businesses because to get to that point where they're doing 10, 20 mil, whatever it is they're doing, right? These guys have obviously put a lot of time and effort and energy. They're very attached to it. And obviously they're very purposeful with that. But there is a fear, isn't there, that kicks in, which is, well, I think it's probably the same as maybe guys that work or ladies, I guess guys generically, they get to the end of their careers, and there's that fear, isn't it, of what's on the other side, because this is what's driven me. But you're alluding, which I agree with, by the way, is that your purpose, your legacy lies outside of the business. The business now is one part of that.
That's right.
But there's a legacy that it carries on and exists. And when you look at your life's work, your current business will be just one part. Wow, what an inspirational story. I'm sure you'll agree. If you're inspired by Rob's story, if you enjoyed today's episode, then do not miss the concluding part on Wednesday, the second part in this 2-part series. You'll find it on iTunes, Spotify. You'll also find it on SoundCloud or on our website, biggerbrightbolder.co.uk/podcast. Also, if you are a business owner, entrepreneur right now doing 100K or more in turnover, and you want to talk to us about potentially occupying one of the seats at our Extreme Growth Masterminds like Rob has for the past 4.5 years, then please email Tracey.Miller. Her email address is tracy.miller@biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. tracy.miller@biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk, and she will talk to you about what we can offer businesses that are doing 6 figures, that's 100, 200, 300, maybe 4, even 500,000 pounds, that want to double their turnover in the next 12 months, like so many of our Extreme Growth Mastermind members have and are currently doing. We've had people go from 100 to 200, from 200 to 400. We've had people go from 180 last year, currently tracking 400 plus revenues this year. If you're serious about extreme growth, if you're already doing 100K or more in turnover, talk to Tracey.Miller. I'll put her email address as a link in this podcast, and she'll talk to you about what we can do for you and your business in terms of leveling you up and, of course, getting you that extreme business growth. If for whatever reason you haven't quite yet hit the 100K mark, if you're doing 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 or 60,000 in revenue, and you want to know what it's going to take to hit 100K or more in the next 12 months or less, then go and check out my 6-figure fast track webinar, which is waiting for you right now. And it takes you through your 6-figure mindset, your 6-figure business model, and your 6-figure methodology on how to get your business over that 100K turnover threshold in the next 12 months or less. You can find that at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track. biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track and get your 5-figure business on the 6-figure fast track. Okay, I should put the links for that in the descriptions. I'll also put the link to Rob's book, From Suicide to Success, in the descriptions as well. Go and check that out. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday when we conclude this amazing interview with the legend that is Rob Goddard. I look forward to seeing you then, and until then, as always, be successful.